Hello, we're going to go over some overdrive compares today, and to do that, we'll start out with a how section, then a details, problems, solutions, and that'll complete the whole video. So we're going to start out with Audacity, but you can probably do this with any DAW. Audacity's free, and you can download it. Yay. The next thing you'll need is a URL that'll be provided. This URL will give you access to my shared drive, and it will outline all the different overdrive tests. The overdrive tests are stored in .wav and in MP3. MP3 is better for listening, but it has lower quality. .wav is better for the actual DAW. It has more information in it. And speaking of that, what you'll want to do is you'll open up Audacity. It'll throw an error report. Then you'll come in, and there is a dark mode. I do suggest it. First thing you want to do is you want to go to Preferences, Tracks, and then set your default view to Spectrogram. And then under Spectrogram, you can set up how you want the spectrogram to look. And this is how I have it set up. It's more focused on what frequencies a guitar produces. I like this. You can play around with it and see what works for you. The next thing you want to do is you want to come in, import audio, and then after you download all those waves, you can come in and import them. It takes a little bit of time, and the wave files are sorted from bright to dark, or clean, then bright to dark. So we have the clean up here, and then it gets into the brighter frequencies. The ordering isn't perfect, so please feel free to correct any mistakes that are made with the order. It's difficult to place mid-cut pedals and some of the more compressed signals. Another thing you can do is if it's running slowly, you can come into tracks or views, track size, and you can collapse all tracks. You can also under view zoom, but be careful. This is a 56 track song, and Audacity isn't designed to run a 56 track song. So the more lag that you introduce into the software, the more likely it'll crash. So you may want to just bring in 5 or 10 pedals, compare them, zoom in, zoom out, take a look, and then do it again with a different set of 10. But you can listen to them. And so if you just want to listen to one, you hit solo. If you just hit play without hitting solo, it'll play every track, and it's loud and obnoxious. So now we have this set up. Let's take a listen. So that was the clean signal, and you can go through each track and you can set up the solo, and then you can play it. And that'll allow you to listen to it, but it is more efficient to use the MP3s, put it in a playlist, and just fast click through it. This is more for a visual aid or just comparing a set of overdrives that you're interested in. Let's go over the details of this test. So the top line here is one part of the stereo recording. This is a line out with a Whirlwind Imp2 passive DI out. This is basically what the pedal's producing. And then the bottom line is mic'd up to an amplifier. And you can see pretty well the differences here. You can see the amplifier over here has more dark in this section, and off the line it doesn't. That's because the amplifier has a EQ section that's being applied. Now, the amplifier isn't being overdriven. The signal produced, which is a G chord, is a recorded guitar signal that's output at 80 decibels. and then it's balanced to hit the amplifier at about 80 decibels. The amplifier doesn't begin to distort until about 95. The pickups used to produce the signal are EMGHZs, and the guitar has a Faraday cage setup in it, so it's a very quiet output, and that's why it was picked. The pedals themselves, their tone knobs are maxed, so we don't have any high-end signal bleed. Their gains are also maxed because that's what we're testing. Their boosts for the output are balanced so that they can hit the 80 decibel requirement. And what this does is it gives you the destination of the signal compression that the clipping diodes are producing. Also, in testing, each pedal is tested with the maximum voltage recommended by the manufacturer. So there shouldn't be any sort of high-end type issue if it's supposed to run at 18 and we're running at 9. And that's the basics of the test. The problems with this test is that 80 decibels isn't very hot, so that's more equivalent to vintage pickups. And the 80 decibels doesn't drive the amp. So if you're wondering what it sounds like when it drives an amp, this isn't going to be the test for you, nor is almost any other test, unless someone specifically is using your guitar, your amp, and that pedal, because your guitar and your amp are going to be different, and that's going to affect how the ultimate signal is produced. The dimed game also represents the compression. We're not necessarily testing the full EQ range of the pedal. We're just testing what type of compression it creates. And it's also self-driven because we're only sending 80 decibels into it. So we are basically ignoring the EQ options. And if it does have a boost EQ, like the Metal Zone has a boost section and the Polysaturator has a boost section, it's either set to where the manufacturer says there's no boost, or it's balanced off the clean signal with drive turned down all the way, and then it's driven all the way up. There's also the issue of Audacity's performance, which I mentioned previously. And the good thing about using something like this is there's no opinions, there's no sponsors, you get all the material for free. There's no cool guitar playing, it's just a G chord. You get a general idea of where the pedal's placed among other pedals. You can feel free to comment and correct any mistakes I've made. And the next thing I'll be doing is probably a set of delays organized in a similar fashion. So if you like this, then the next one you'll also like. Let's just take a moment and put these into a little playlist and just go through them real quick. So we'll start out with the clean and then just let it roll through. And that's the full set of all the pickups. One thing you may have caught is that the OD glove is not overdriven. It's set up for 18 volts and it does need more than 80 decibels to overdrive. I'll have to address that in an individual video. I may make individual videos to go over the overdrives and address their EQs and go over the different ranges they can produce. But for the most part, this is just to tell you where the compression is going to sculpt the signal to, because ultimately that's what makes the overdrive pedal the overdrive pedal. Without that compression, it would just be a booster. And then instead of going over the flip diodes and all that, we'd go over how the signal's boosted in a more bass driven or treble driven method. Also, this doesn't go over the different types of circuitry that are in the pedals, whether they're digital, whether they're symmetrical or asymmetrically clipped, or what type of actual chip or clipping methodology is used. But it does go over what they sound like, and it does give you a visual aid to help you place the pedal. And I think that's about it. Thanks for watching.